Maintenance Nashville. Okay. All right. With that, that audio off, this audio is on, I hope. You're a lawyer. You have to learn to have a IT degree as well.
IT degree.
Yeah, we have to be doing all of this as council people with no staff.
That's very true.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope that we are live on Facebook. Sorry, we're a little bit late. A part of it is that, I'm an accountant, she's a lawyer. And I think we're all going to get an associate degree in IT or something. So we'll be able to do this ourselves next time. But I'm excited that Councilmember Jones is back with us, and we're going to be taking a look at this year's budget. As you all are aware, Mayor O'Connor presented his budget for FY25 to Council, and also he's already filed the ordinance for the FY25 budget. And then this week, next week, Tuesday, we'll be having the State of Metro address. But what I try to do with the budget conversations, Councilmember Porterfield, who is the chair of budget, will also be hosting some citywide conversations. She's going to be going around town talking about budget. The first meeting is going to be Monday, this coming Monday, at Bellevue. But what we try to do with the conversations that I do, it's a little bit different. One, we'll try to break down the budget, go into the nitty-gritty of it. We welcome your questions and your comments. And then as the week progresses, we will be talking to different people trying to tackle different part of the budget. So next week, I'm going to have MMPS school board member Frida Player and Rachel Ann Eldred come and talk to us specifically about the school budget and what that entails and what that is about. The week after, we'll be talking about our employees, labor laws, the MC3 program, the details of how does this budget help the people that are growing Nashville. That will be on May 25th. On June 1st, we will start talking about security, public safety, programs like the varsity school that the group is trying to, Black National Assembly is trying to do, and some other people looking at what are some of the alternative programs in the city that enhances public safety that we can take a look at. And that's just a bit of the schedule. I will be publishing them every week. So it's a little bit different, but trying to look at the budget a little more in detail and to be able to answer your question. So I'm not going to belabor it. Again, thank you all so much for joining. Thank to my past budget chair and current budget vice chair. You
may need to turn your camera because this is what they see on Facebook.
Oh, that's what they see on Facebook?
Yes.
Are you kidding me? See? Oh.
So go back to your
Which one is see? I need that IT degree after all.
And turn on your camera.
Got it. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. This happens every year. You would think that we've been doing this for such a long time and that we have it down, or I have it down. Maybe Councilmember Toombs probably does. You would think that I have it down already. I'm looking at us on another camera and I thought that's what you guys are seeing. Apparently not. And so sorry you've been looking at a blank screen for so long. We're not going to quit our day job. That's the moral of the story. All right, Councilmember Chum. So thank you so much for joining. And I want you to go over the FY25 budget as presented by the mayor, as we've done in the past. Give us some highlights in terms of what is the needs, the revenue, the expenses, and what is the thing that people are looking at in this particular budget. So thank you.
Okay, now let me share my screen. Let's see. Okay. All right, and it never works for me when I try to do the slideshow screen, so I'm just gonna click from slide to slide.
So do we even need this?
All right, so the agenda for this presentation is I'm going to talk a little bit about revenue growth over the years. Where do we get our money? Fiscal year 25 revenue estimate, as well as proposed ways that we're going to spend the revenue for fiscal year 25, Metro's debt, our fund balance, our surplus funds, and then just give some information on the budget schedule and other resources. So if you look at our revenue growth over the years, and I know there have been a lot of presentations in the past that talked about where Metro was financially pre the tax increase of fiscal year 21. We were not in a good financial position post that tax increase that allowed us to basically correct our finances and get on more solid footing. And so if you look at fiscal year 22 through fiscal year 24, you see some pretty significant growth in revenue for Metro. Are we messing up again? Did you turn off your screen?
No, I did not.
Go back to Zoom.
Maybe it's a delayed.
Go back. You may
Okay.
have been kicked off the. No,
No,
you may have just been kicked off of the live stream.
I did take this one off. I took that one off.
Let's see.
Are we still on Facebook?
The Facebook's right.
It's on? It's delayed,
delayed.
but is it
What do you-
coming or what do you
What
see?
picture do you see?
I see the PowerPoint.
Okay,
Okay.
that's where we are.
Fantastic. All right. So if you look at fiscal year 21 through 24, you see particularly 22 through 24, you see some pretty significant growth in revenue for the city. That's representative of the construction boom in Nashville. We had a lot of new development come online, as well as some higher than expected spending patterns. So we had more sales tax revenue than anticipated. And then we come to fiscal year 25, where the projected growth is 1.8%, which seems significantly, well, it is significantly lower than previous years. However, what you're seeing is that we're getting back to a normal pace of revenue growth. When the finance director gives our revenue projection, what we see in actual revenue at the end of the fiscal year should be within a few percentage points of that projection. And so this 1.8% is basically Metro getting back to a normal pace. And I do want to note that it is solely within the authority of the finance director to set our revenue projection for the fiscal year. No one else can do that, and that is in our charter. So where do we get our money from? So the projected revenue is $3.27 billion. So where is that $3.27 billion coming from? The bulk of it comes from property taxes. That's our most stable source of revenue. Folks are going to pay their property taxes. Probably about 97, 98% of folks will pay their property taxes on time every year. So property taxes is over 50%, 51.37% of our budget. Our next largest pot is our local option sales tax. It's basically our sales tax. That's 22% of our budget. And the portion that Metro gets of the sales tax is 2.25%. So when you go to buy something at the store and you see that 9.75, 2.25% of that comes to Metro. There's a slightly lower percentage for groceries. The state portion is 4%. So for groceries, you're paying 6.25% tax on your groceries. Then other government agencies is another chunk that's 14.5%. So that's going to be grants from state, federal government, grants to the city, and then all other revenue, that's your fees, that's revenue that different departments generate for providing services, and other miscellaneous revenue. And this year we are using a small portion of our fund balance to make sure that our budget is balanced, and that is 0.77% of our fund balance. So that's $25 million. Because what is required every year is that our budget has to be structurally balanced. And basically that means our revenue has to equal our expenses. So we can't operate at a deficit that is in violation of our charter as well as state law. And so this slide just gives you the specific numbers for the revenue estimates for fiscal year 25. The previous slide just gave you percentages, and it's a nice color slide that I took from finance. But it gives you the actual number breakdown of how we get to the 3,277,385,200, which I know sounds like a ton of money, and it is. It is absolutely a ton of money. However, as we go through the slides, you'll see that, you know, Metro is spending your tax dollars wisely. This slide is a breakdown of expenses. So debt service is about $400 million or 12.5% of our revenue. Education is the largest portion outside of general government. At 1.2 billion, so it's 38%. General operating fund is everybody else, so all of our departments. So that's 1.6 billion, which is 49%, and that gets you to that 3.2. And so looking at that 49% and how that gets spread out across our general government, you'll see a nice little pie chart that I also took from finance to show the breakdown. General government is 23%, public safety and justice, which is police, fire, sheriff, our court system, is 44%, infrastructure and transportation, 12%, health and social services, 9%, recreation and culture, 9%, regulation and inspection is 3%. And I don't even know why there's an other on here because it's 0%. But again, I took this slide from finance.
I'm sure there's some little stuff there that it's just not a whole lot. Yeah,
1%.
yeah.
That makes sense. So looking at education, and I like to talk about education every year because even though there is a separate, you know, school board that sets policies, that adopts a budget for our school system, the entity that's at the forefront of most people's minds is council, and what is council doing for public education in Nashville. And so I want to highlight again that our largest single expense is education. The total MMPS budget for fiscal year 25 is proposed to be $1,247,078,900. That is a increase over fiscal year 24 of $41,606,100. This represents about 5% inflation. And I will dig a little bit more into MMPS, not as in-depth as our school board members will go, but I want folks to understand how we fund education. So state contribution to MMPS. So if you look at since fiscal year 2015, you'll notice that the state contribution has declined. And
now, since people are looking at slide and it looks as if the slide keep going up, I think it's important to let people know that that's the totality.
Yeah, so this is the total. So look, the little red, orange, it looks kind of orange to me. That's the state. That's the state. The blue is Metro.
So as states reduces, Metro has to go up.
Yes, so we have to, because we have to fund our schools. So as the state contribution gets less, Metro's contribution has to be more. And that is important because if you look at how the state funds school systems across the state, look at this first pie chart, statewide funding. We'll let the school board folks tell you what TISA means. just look at the
They'll
colors.
be here next week.
Just look at the colors for the sake of this presentation. But you'll see statewide, the state contribution is 72%. Local contribution is 28%. But if you look at this last and look at the middle slide tells you what the suggested budget is for MMPS.
Mm,
And suggested is that the state pay 43% and the city pay 57.
mm,
But you see on this last pie chart
Mm.
that the state actually does 23%
oh my,
and the city does 77%.
oh my God.
And-
So the state overall for other counties and
Mhm,
everywhere on
mhm,
average does 70%.
Yes,
And we are expecting them to do 40,
Yeah.
but they don't even do that. They only do 20.
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Because we are considered to have a higher financial capacity to pay for
We
school.
would not say anything. We will continue to fund
Well,
our
that-
school.
yeah. Oh, yeah, we're
We will
absolutely
do
gonna
what we
fund
need to
schools.
do,
We're
but I think
absolutely-
that's baloney.
It is. So when you hear that narrative that schools are underfunded, Metro is not underfunding schools.
Schools.
It's the state that's underfunding schools. And so I know that, schools over the past couple of years, they got a lot of federal funding. And so the focus with this budget is making sure that all those great programs that schools have put in place that have really helped make some really great strides for MMPS, that those are still in place, right? And I know the school board members will get more into this, but MMPS for this upcoming fiscal year, they're going to use some of their fund balance so that they can keep some of those programs going. And the idea is to kind of ease those programs into the Metro budget because recurring revenue has to equal recurring expenses, right?
Mhm.
And so as we kind of grow our revenue, we can take on more recurring expenses. But for now, to take care of these things that you see on this slide, they're going to use some of their fund balance.
And that way we're not stopping any of the program.
Correct.
Because I could know, I remember that as we were going around during the campaign period,
Mhm.
people are like, MMPS relied on ESSA so much.
Mhm.
What happened when those funding goes
Mhm.
away? So since ESSA is going away,
Mhm.
we have enough in our fund balance, school
Mhm.
fund balance.
Yeah.
And the Metro gave them additional money
Right.
to make sure we're not stopping any
Correct.
program.
Correct. And so as you hear about the school funding conversation, I want to point out every year MMPS has what's called their continuity of operations. So basically, how much money do they need to keep doing what they were doing last year?
Mhm.
And so for this fiscal year, they need 62 million.
Mm.
And the Metro allocation is 41. However, we do have in the mayor's proposed budget to use $18 million of surplus funds from our fund balance
For textbooks.
for textbooks.
Mm.
So really, the total allocation is 59.
That's a quick math, huh? Okay,
Quick
maybe you
math.
don't have a 90 degree, but your math is good. So basically, they need 1.268.
Mhm.
1 billion. You look at, see if I
Right,
say
right.
1,000, but that's 1 billion, yo. To be able to continue in the
Mhm.
same space as they were.
Correct.
So we were able to give them 45, then we did another
Mhm.
18 out of
41.
41,
plus
and then another 18
Mhm.
out of fund
Mhm.
balance to make
And
it
so that's
55.
going to be part of the conversation going forward, just making sure they have what they need, because it's a little smidge
Mm,
less.
mm.
So you like 4
Like 3
million?
million somewhere there.
Yeah, $3-4 million, but you're talking about over $1 billion budget. So, but we still need to make sure, like, hey, are you good?
Good,
Basically,
yeah.
can
But you talk about they're using the fund balance.
Mhm.
So will that not include that smidge of 3 million or 4
That's part
million
of
to
that.
make sure that everything is still balanced
I think that's gonna be part of the conversation.
with the school board?
Mhm,
Yes, yes.
mhm.
Okay, all right. I'll let you go on that one. You ease out of that one that easily. Okay. So it means, folks, next week you need to tune into the school board people
Yes.
for them to answer that question.
And we absolutely want to make sure schools have everything that they need, because they have made some really great strides. We have
Yes,
some really
yes,
good
yes,
schools.
yes,
And
yes,
kudos to Dr.
yes.
Battle for really,
Yes,
changing the
yes,
narrative.
Yes.
So moving on to our next, largest expense across departments is our employees. So I like to point this out because, there's always a question of, whether or not Metro is wisely spending money, if we're wasting money. Well, our largest expense across all departments is our employees.
Mm.
So fiscal year 25 recommended budget, 56.6%. of the money is going to employees for their salary and benefits. So that we do invest in our employees and try our best to make sure that they're taken care of, and most of our money is going towards that.
And to, I mean, we do that, and
Mhm.
kudos to the mayor for continuing that and making sure that.
Right.
But you do see where the people come from is that the cost of living
Oh, yeah,
continues to
absolutely.
go up,
Mhm.
and people can barely still make it with what we have. So
Right.
I guess the goal is we don't pat ourselves on the back too much.
Correct.
Because there's still a whole lot to be done.
Correct. So yes, there's still gonna be conversations around the COLA, if that's sufficient. Also, there's questions around, how we pay
Mhm.
Metro employees, like with the merit
With the merits.
increases, with the steps, like what does all of that mean? Is anyone being left out? So those are some really important conversations that we're gonna have as a council moving forward, and have those with the community and with our employees.
So before you go to debt service, and as you're talking about the employees, and I know that a lot of people probably know this already, but for those that do not,
Okay.
other than the COLA increase, what else is in this budget that actually relates to employees? I know that you talk
Mhm.
about merit, you talk about COLA. Isn't there like a minimum wage, or are there other things
So
in there that
there-
people should be aware of?
So there have been salary adjustments so that the minimum salary of anyone in Metro is $20 an hour.
Okay.
So I believe last year was moved up to
18,
18.
yes, I
And
remember
so
that.
now it's 20.
It's
So
20.
no one in Metro should be
Should make it
making
less than
$20 an hour.
$20. Okay, all right. Thank you.
So looking at our debt service, this is for the folks who think we're just spending like crazy.
Are we?
I don't think so. So our total debt service is a little over $400 million. Again, a large number, but in comparison to our total budget, it's 12.54% of our total revenue. Last year was 12.74, so it's a little bit lower for this fiscal year. And our fiscal folks have been doing a really good job.
Yeah.
Whether it's refinancing for a lower interest rate, like we've experienced significant debt savings on interest. So that's been really good. And we have a debt policy cap of 17%. So we are doing pretty good on our debt service and still making a lot of investments in the communities,
Yes.
and adding more to Vision Zero, to sidewalks, to the traffic calming. Someone asked me, will there be speed cushions on every street in Nashville? I was like, it looks like it.
That's good.
It looks like it, the way the program is going. And that is a very good thing. But there's been a lot of investment in the communities through our capital spending plans. And that's what this is reflective of, the bonds that we take out to pay.
And I think it's very important because, I mean, we're part of what people want us to do, is to be fiscally responsible.
Absolutely.
And so for me, as I'm looking at this and reviewing them, it was good to see that our debt is going down. And I think that's very important. Again, part of it is strategy, the part of it is the refinancing, things that give us the good credit rating that the department is doing. Nobody wants to owe money, but as in life, right? Sometimes you do have to go borrow money to buy your house so you can keep doing everything else. But Metro is doing all they can to make sure that we're keeping it down. Last year we talked about that debt policy cap, which is something that we put in place last year. For those that may not remember, because I think it's a good fiscal policy, would you explain what that is a little bit so people understand what we're talking about?
Well, I will put it in as simple terms as I can, but basically.
You mean you don't have an accounting degree? Come on now.
But basically, it's just our how much debt we can take out.
That's it.
So yeah, looking at our total debt payments as a percentage of our total revenue, 17% is the cap. We're not supposed to go over that.
And it's a way to make sure that Metro just does not keep just borrowing and borrowing its way out of everything else. So that policy is saying no matter what, when we look at our total revenue, it cannot be more than 17. And this year we're actually at 12 point something, less than 13%. So which is good. Okay, thank you.
And so this is looking at our fund balance. And as you can see, we have a pretty healthy fund balance. We passed a fund balance policy last term, which basically said that we, in our general operating fund balance, we had to keep 2 months of operating expenses. And that's basically good policy for a city our size. Right before the pandemic hit, we had about 2 or 3 weeks worth of cash. So it was pretty scary because there was, a lot of rumors saying that, everything was going to completely shut down. And so there was a concern that, that's no sales tax revenue if there's no like business happening. And so there was a concern that we would not have enough cash to cover our expenses. And I'll say that our charter requires that we pay our debt first. So we will always pay our debt first. Whatever's left over, if there's not enough to cover other services, that means we cut services. And so I know there's been some conversation in the past about the city, being near bankruptcy, being insolvent. That's not possible for us to be insolvent because we're required to pay our debt. Those bonds, we have to pay those first. And what's left over is how we fund services. And we have to stay within the boundaries of whatever revenue is left over. But we didn't get to that. So we are doing really well right now. Our fund balance requires that we have.
Don't use really well. It'll be a trigger because the people are not doing really well.
Oh, no. In comparison to where we were.
Well, before.
We are doing significantly better.
Okay,
We're doing
alright.
significantly
All
better.
right.
So we have the 2 months of expenses in our fund balance. We actually are slightly over it. If you look at the chart, it'll show you that what we have is like $535 million, and we are only required to have 489. So that gives us some additional.
Don't say that to people that likes to rate.
But there's another slide where there's some recommended use of that surplus, so don't get too happy.
I see you.
And then we also have a debt service fund balance, just so that we always have the money to pay those bonds. And so this is proposed use of surplus funds, about $38 million. So you see Barnes Fund, affordable housing is a really big issue in Nashville. And so as a city, we've been trying to make some strategic investments in affordable housing to increase the number of affordable units we have in the city. So almost 16.5 is going to Barnes Fund. The 18 million that I talked about earlier about textbooks, 1.5 million for Vision Zero, and then 2.4 million for a planning infrastructure study. That's a big deal in Nashville. Infrastructure, our growth has outpaced our infrastructure.
That's true.
And so planning staff are going to do a deep dive into what infrastructure do we need, how much development is too much, just how we move forward as a city, so that everyone can enjoy living here and can walk and not get hit by a car.
And I think that was important because I remember that as we're looking at new proposal to increase housing, people always say you want to increase housing, but what about the infrastructure? And so doing this study would not allow us to be able to say, this is what we have, this is what we need, and make sure that our infrastructure is at the same pace as the
basically
building
like Nashville next, but infrastructure.
But infrastructure, I think it's a good, if you don't plan, what is that thing you plan not to fail or fail not to plan?
Fail to plan, then you plan to fail.
There we go. See, I knew it was something like that. So we want to make sure that we're planning and that whatever we're doing is along that line. So I do want to point out that, especially with the bonds fund, and the reason why it's important is that for people that are looking at, that are, always look at this budget, look at the book, look at the ordinances. When you're looking at the ordinance itself, you will see only about 6 million or 6 point something million for bonds. And so when I first look at it, I was like, oh my God, I thought the mayor said 30 million. And so what happened is that in the general operations, you have that 6 million, but then the balance of the 30 million now comes from the surplus, so that people can know that, yeah, it is 30 million. It's just that it's in 2 different places when people are looking.
And I know this is a pretty tight budget.
Very tight.
Revenues are pretty flat. departments were asked to do a 1.4% cost savings across the board.
Yeah, and I
Um,
want to ask you about that when you're
yeah,
done
okay.
with your presentation, because
Yeah.
I think it's important to look at that and see
Mhm.
where is that coming from and all of that, but I don't want to jump into
yeah.
that, or if you want to
And I
answer
bring
that, no,
and I
that's
bring it
fine.
up now because I know folks want to see either what do you call it? Designated revenue stream for
For,
bonds
yes,
fund.
yes,
And
yes,
so
yes, yes.
we're not
We're not there
there
yet,
as a city,
but
but
it's
it
an
is important.
aspiration,
Yeah,
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
So budget highlights, again, the 1.4% cost savings across the board, 3.5% COLA for Metro and MMPS employees. Step increases, 3% merit raise for eligible employees is funded in the mayor's proposed budget. We're using 25 million in fund balance to balance the budget. And then for fiscal year 24, there's an estimated 45 million in surplus funds. And when you're looking at surplus funds, it is for the previous fiscal year.
Mhm,
So you
mhm,
can't project
mhm.
how much extra you'll have for a
The
fiscal
new
year in the
year,
future.
yeah,
So you
yeah.
have to wait until all your actual revenue and actual expenses have come in. The fiscal year is closed, which for Metro is June 30th. And then you look and see if there's anything additional. And so the estimate for fiscal year 24 is 45 million. That money actually is not available until January because they do the end of the year report, which is the annual financial report.
The audit and all
yeah.
of that stuff, yeah,
And that's usually later in the year, October, November.
yeah.
And then they'll know for sure like what that actual number is, and those funds become available in January.
But of that 45 million estimated surplus,
Mhm.
we've already used 38
Mhm,
already
38, yeah.
towards the 25, which is the details that you gave before.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So what's the difference?
You know, when
I don't want to say people look at me and think
So
that
that-
I'm the
no.
one that always do that, but I don't know.
So of course, you know, by the time you have Chair Porterfield, like her substitute will be out,
We'll
but
be out, yeah.
when we are trying to fund additional items as a council, we don't get additional revenue.
We don't.
We have to take from something
Mhm.
to give to another.
Yeah.
And so there are certain things in the budget that, you know, we take from and try to fund things that the community comes to us with. In the past, fund balance has been one of those. That's why we have a fund balance policy.
For people that go to vote, hey, like I said, why are we saving when people don't have money? I don't know. That's what I say. But I think they did the policy because of me, but it's okay.
Well, we have to, the city has to have some money too, just in case.
No, I'm kidding. I mean,
Just
it's
in case.
good business. You have to. I think we were in a really bad place in 2019.
Oh, yeah.
And that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
very, very scary for a city
Right.
not to be able to have a month of
Right.
savings to pay workers. It's not a
Right.
place we ever want to be again. So
Exactly.
we do need that from balance. We do need that.
Exactly. And the rest is just the budget calendar. I don't think that the chair's community meetings are on here, so I wanted to say what those are. So these are community meetings where Chair Porterfield will be going over the Metro budget as well as the budget process. The first one is Councilwoman Suara said is this Monday, May 13th, Bellevue Regional Center at 6:30 p.m. On Saturday, May 18th at 2 p.m. at the Northwest YMCA. On Saturday, May 25th at the Southeast Community Center at 10 a.m. And on that same day, May 25th at the Hermitage Library at 2 p.m.
And people should know that, she spread this across the county so that people have the opportunity. You don't have to go to all four, and you don't have to go to the one near your house. You just go to the one that is most convenient for you, but it's an opportunity for you to be able to come, listen, ask questions, have your input. And in addition to that, we'll also be having the public hearing for
Right.
budget as well, that
Right.
people can also come in and chime in.
And if you're interested and want to either come to the chamber or watch online, we do have our council budget hearings, which we have some of our departments come and present on their budget so that council members have the opportunity to ask questions in person. Also, I always encourage folks to engage with their district council member, at-large council members with
Make the
any,
dates bigger so they can see it.
okay. When I figure out how to do that.
Oh my God, when I thought you're about to get the IT certificate. Okay, all right, you're not ready to graduate
Oh, wait a minute,
yet.
I think this is how you do.
There you go.
There you go. So our council budget hearings actually start on Tuesday. Tuesday, May 14th, 4 p.m. And you can see it on the calendar there. I can't read all of that.
And all of that is online, and
Right.
I'll be sure to put it back on Facebook and share those
Mhm.
doc where you can also find it.
So the calendar is
email.
The calendar is online, as well as the budget presentation from finance, the budget ordinance, the budget book. There's also some video on YouTube of past budget community meetings. When I was budget chair, I did a budget 101 series. That was 11 sessions. That's still on YouTube. I was vice chair under former council member Bob Mendez. We did some community meetings. The last one, because the pandemic hit for the last one, we did record it, and that is on YouTube as well.
And I think all my budget conversations are online too.
Yes, both councilmen are.
So people have opportunity to go back and look. But in addition to those meetings by budget chair, we will also be doing these Facebook conversations every
Yes.
Saturday from 3 to 4. Today's 3:30 to 4:30, but from next week we'll go back to 3 to 4. It's an opportunity for you to, if you look at it and you have a question, you need to come back and ask us your question and let us know. I want people to understand that these conversations are very important. What they do is that they actually, not only are we trying to help you understand the budget, but you also help us understand your need.
Right.
Sometimes, I'll be honest with you, in the last couple of years, I get ideas for my wish list from the question that people ask.
Yep.
So when people are saying, what about this and what about that? We take all of that into consideration. When you come to any meetings and you're talking to the budget chair and telling her what you think, all of that actually make a difference. Now, we know that council amendment, it doesn't put a major dent in it, but it does allow us to do little things here and there. So I hope people will continue to watch and ask questions and be engaged. Now, I'm looking at online. We do have a comment from Ms. Channel. Ms. Channel says she just looked at the Inclusivics report, and it looks like that senior directors get paid very high or very well. And that she's very glad that we have $20 per hour, but there's still some people that get paid a lot in Metro. So I think that I don't know if you're the one doing wages study or something like
Right.
that. We need to take a greater look at it. I think you're speaking to equity issues. There's been conversations over the past couple of years about we're very top heavy. And people at the bottom don't make so much. The reason is you cannot just go and start cutting people's salary and cutting directors without actually understanding what everyone does. And so I think there's a conversation about taking a look at that.
So HR does market studies, so they are required to do a pay study once every 4 years.
Yeah, I think they're about to do one too.
Right. So they do a pay study, and they study other markets to see how our employees are paid in comparison to others. Higher level directors, usually those are folks with advanced degrees, so they are gonna garner higher salaries. However, we do need to take care of everybody, and so that's the point of doing the salary adjustments and continuing to do those pay studies so that we make sure that we're paying people appropriately.
Thank you. Folks, if you have any comments or question, please go ahead and put it in there so that we can. You got the expert. She got an IT certificate now. So we can make sure that we are addressing them. And so a question that I put off, and you may have talked about it.
Mhm.
What was it again? What was that question again?
About the savings cut.
The savings card, yes.
Mhm.
So I know that, and in looking at the ordinance for this year, the
Mhm.
first thing that you will see is that 16 million cut at the very top,
Mhm.
where it says that the director is actually given the authority to go and work with department.
Mhm.
So that 16 million, do you know how it came about? Have we been able to ascertain the impact on services, if any?
Mhm.
Is it countywide? Is it everybody?
Mhm.
And also, can you address, over the years, we talk about vacant positions and all of that, having an inventory for vacancy. Does all of that play into that 16 million, or what do you know about that 16 million and how did that come about?
So my understanding of the 16 million, and I haven't had the opportunity to really do a deep dive into it. We just got, didn't we just get this last week?
We just got it,
last
yeah.
week.
I was looking at it all night long.
And so, but the 1.4% cost savings, it will not impact services. So our services will still stay status quo. Unlike past years where we've been trying to staff up and give folks, positions that they need, there are no new positions this year. So that's pretty big because we've been adding so many positions over the last few years to like fire, to NDOT, to make sure they could provide the services that we need as a city. So really, I think it's, departments looking at where they could kind of shave a little bit off without impacting services. So we shouldn't see an impact to services. As far as vacant positions, so I am leading up as part of Budget and Finance Committee, a work group to look at employee vacancies. Because last year was a big conversation around vacancies because we had some departments who had quite a few vacancies that have been vacant for quite a while now. And what happens at the end of the fiscal year is that any unused money from those salaries and benefits that are set aside for those vacant positions just goes into fund balance. And so the argument last year was, let's capture it rather than having that money go into fund balance. Let's cut some of those vacant positions so that that money can be used as part of our regular operating budget. And that conversation was not well received by departments. It was not. And I understand that because you think about, if you look at Metro budgets prior to fiscal year 2020, I mean, we were cutting departments to the bone. And so a lot of departments were at a point where they didn't have the staff that they needed. And so now that they have the staff, even though that includes some vacant positions, they don't want to let it go because they don't know if they'll get it back.
Yeah. And I think that's where study comes in. I think that, what I've always tell people is that it's easy to say, oh, they have the same position for the last 2 or 3 years, let's just cut it. But you don't want to do that because the impact on every department is different. And so you need to do like a deeper dive. And which is why I'm so glad that is happening. I wanted to give a shout out to Madam President of the council, the vice mayor. She's online. Thanks for joining us, Vice Mayor Angie Anderson. Thanks for your leadership. And she has a comment. It's good when we use acronym to let people know what does that mean. So we kept saying COLA and COLA and COLA. And so COLA basically means cost of living adjustment.
Correct.
And so basically, I mean, we talk about our salary is somewhat, but what we spend on things in the community changes. And because of inflation, the buying power of dollar last year is not the same as this year. So that's why we do an adjustment to be able to say, we'll add a little bit to your salary to help you get up because of that cost of living adjustment.
If you think about it, if your cost of living adjustment is less than inflation, you're technically losing money because the value of your money is less.
Yes.
And so you do want to keep up with inflation at a minimum.
Yes. Folks, are there any other question out there? While you're all looking, I was taking a look at this and I saw a couple of things. General Hospital.
Mhm,
I saw that that it's about 2 million up this year.
mhm.
Okay, all right.
So you'll have, even though across the board, the budget is flat, you will see for some departments where there may be like a small increase
Increase.
or a small decrease. But overall, there is that 1.4% cost saving.
And you will also see increases a little bit, because if you're going to do cost of living adjustment
Mhm.
and you're going to do salary minimum wage adjustment,
Right.
that will still add to the
Right.
budget, because
Exactly.
you want to make sure you keep department whole.
Correct.
So in your review, and that's what I've seen, one thing that I did notice is that some of the places that we typically go to
Didn't
to do
look as
our
robust
did not
as they
look as
could.
robust. Right?
Right, oh,
What happened to those liability? Like, I'm ready to do my wish list, and there are places that I typically will go every year. They're so lean.
They
You're
are.
laughing. Like,
Oh,
did
I've
you see
looked,
that
I've
too?
looked, yes. So
So what are we gonna do?
we're gonna be creative. And so going back to what I said earlier, because when we as a council, adopt a substitute budget, which is sponsored by the chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, we are pulling from one
One
thing
place to the
put
other.
it to another.
Yes.
And so there are certain funds that in the past have been ripe for the picking.
Oh,
to
always
pull
right.
from and put somewhere else. And those funds this year are looking a little lean.
They're very, I mean, I was going through it, I'm like, what did the finance director do? Like, where's my money?
So,
We will have to
we-
get creative. We
there will
really
be
will
some
have to get creative.
creativity, I am sure.
I do want to point out, because I think it's very important, and for me to be able to say that, as I was looking at the ordinance, one of the things that I did not see on the economic development and inspection was 3.2 million that we make to the stadium every year. And so because of the new agreement that we did, that payment that we used to pay for every year, that's no longer on the books. Now, that does not mean that when the new one comes, there will not be another one. But at least for this year, we have 3.2 million. That is not on the docket for us. So I thought, okay, we pick up something a little bit in there. But again, I've looked, I've screamed, I'm gonna keep looking. I'm gonna keep scrubbing. Something else that I want to point out to anybody that is also taking a look at this is with the Arts Commission. When you look at the ordinance last year, we say 5 million for Arts Commission. When you're looking at this year, the 5 million is still there, but it's in two places, just like the Bonds Fund. And so for the Arts Commission, it's actually broken into two. There's a 3.2 million that says it's contingent on Metro Council approval. There's some things that has to, that's for the funding that goes to the artists. Yes. And then there's a 2 million that goes to the commission. So I wanted to explain those, because if you're looking at it and you see 2 million to Art Commission and you're like, oh, they cut the money. No, it was not cut. It was just split into two.
Right.
The Arts Commission
And
is still getting the 5
there was
million.
a strong desire and vocal desire on the part of the council to really
To have a good oversight.
revamp that process and have some
yeah,
more oversight.
Yeah, have more oversight.
Mhm.
All right, are there any other question online, comments? All right, let me see on my notes if I have anything else for you, because I kept up. Let people know about the tax levy, the tax rates.
Oh, I did
It's
not
the
put that on my
same.
note. It is the same.
It's the same.
There's no proposed increase to the tax rate.
Okay. Now, this may not be a question that you might be able to answer, but I'll put you on the spot. Although I think I've asked it and I can answer it myself. So we have a tax referendum coming up. And if people do vote for that, I don't see, like you said, there's no property tax increases. So is that expected to be funded through property taxes or another sources of funding?
So the tax that's part of transit, that's sales tax.
Sales tax. I wanted to mention that because I think it's good for people to know that as we continue to talk about transit, and a lot of people are thinking, okay, we're going to get an increase in our property taxes. We're not. And so what's going to happen with the transit, and we do need better transit in Nashville, is that the funding for that is built into our sales tax that you're already paying, that's already in there. It's a percentage of that will be going into the transit funding. And I think it's important for us to be able to clear that for those that are watching. I
Well,
think
it
it's
would
very-
be, the sales tax will be increased. And I can't remember what I think it's 0.25%, but it will go up. So you would pay more in sales tax, and I know there's,
So we're like 9.25 now. With the state taking
Mhm.
7 and we're taking 2.25,
2.25.
so it would be 250.
I believe, if
Or
the
whatever
increase
we
is
get.
0.25, I think that's the increase. So yeah, it will be a little bit higher, and I know there's a lot of concern with the sales tax being a regressive tax.
Mhm.
But again, going back to transit being very important, and that's how folks get to work, and get to the
Yeah, get to
grocery
the
store,
grocery
and
store.
get to
Get to
the
make money,
doctor,
get to the
everywhere.
doctor.
Yeah,
Not sit in traffic for 1 hour.
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of the quality of life issue. I will make sure that in one of the conversations before we finish this budget conversation, I'll make sure that I have somebody come and talk about transit.
absolutely.
So that people can also, I know the mayor is doing a good job, and his team is all over the county. So you have opportunity to listen to them and ask them questions, but we'll give them an opportunity also before we finish the budget conversation to come out and say something about that as well. Well, thank you, Councilmember
You're
Jones.
welcome.
I looked.
Keep looking, keep
So, well, the mayor described it best, and I also think that during the budget presentation, I think it was one of the deputy finance director that said this. The mayor says that, this is a budget that put people first, but it's very lean.
Mhm.
The deputy finance director said it's a keep the lights on budget, and I thought that was very interesting,
Yeah.
interesting term to use. So this budget actually kept the light on. It did not do any whistle. There's no bells and whistle,
Mhm.
but it makes sure that while it is still lean, while it is still flat, that we're taking into account the cost of living adjustment, that we make sure that we have a minimum wage that is, decent. It's important to know that our city is still 7.25. So for Metro to go up to 20, I think is very good. So we want to keep the light on, but we also want to make sure the people that are helping us keep the light on, that we're taking care of
Right,
them,
right.
that our schools are not losing funding, that the fact that they don't have ESSA anymore, that we're
Right.
able to make all the shortfalls from their fund balance and also from the additional that we give them. There's a comment that says the sales tax increase is half a penny. That it is half a
Okay.
penny. Oh, so see, we will barely notice it. But we will have the transit people come and talk about that, because
Yeah.
I think it's part of what people will be interested in seeing. So join the budget share starting Monday
Yes.
at the different location. Then there's another Monday's Bellevue. Saturday is a Northwest YMCA.
Right.
Saturday the 18th, the 25th, she will be in Antioch, and she will be in Hermitage. I memorized that. That was so
Look at you.
nice. See, I need a certificate. I will do my best to be at many locations as possible. In addition to that, we have the departmental areas where they will be coming to us. You can watch in live, listen to the question that we're asking. Send us your question. Let us be your voice. Let us represent you. And finally, this budget conversation is going to continue. I will transcribe this. It will be on Facebook, but you will also be getting it on my blog and my newsletter. Next week, we're going to have school board members, Frida Player and Rachel and Andrew coming to talk to us specifically about the schools, and they'll be able to answer more questions. We may even have MNEA as if I can get them to come as well. After that, we'll be talking about all 10 Metro employees. I have the union members coming to talk to us about some of the things that's happening, our training program, talk about what they're doing with the East Bank, talk about, the cost of living and things, represent our employees and the people that are growing our city, and that will be on May 25th. And on June 1st, we're going to be talking about public safety. And that is everything public safety, MMPD, alternative programs, the mental health core, all of that things that are happening in the city. One of the reasons why I try to do that is it's not just about the money only, but
Mhm.
also for people to be aware of some of the program and services that we have in the city. After that, we will talk about housing. I wanted to bring the folks from Legal Aid to talk about the eviction right to council, the bonds fund, and some of the opportunities for people to be a part of that. And then to round it up, we will have the budget chair come and talk about our substitute budget, to be able to tell us, walk us through what is in that substitute budget, what made it, and all of that stuff. So I hope you plan to join every Saturday. It's gonna be 3 to 4 every Saturday. We will be live on Facebook just like we did. Everything will be on Zoom for the next couple of meetings until June 12th or 15 when I do the budget chair. We have to do that in person. And Councilmember Toombs and I will make sure we go get a degree on how to do Zoom and how to do Facebook, because I've been doing this for how many years, and every time I always mess up. So I promise that by the time my Councilmember Porterfield comes along, we will have worked out all the kinks. Please let this not be the end of it. You have the opportunity to continue to send your question. You have the opportunity to email us. Email the budget chair, email the vice chair, email me, email your council people. I will continue to find, we represent you. This is your budget. And if you have any question or comments about it, we want to hear from you. I want to use this opportunity to thank everyone that tuned in. I can see everyone that is on Facebook and those that will be looking at it later. Thank you all so much. And I want to wish all the mothers and all the mother figure out there a very happy Mother's Day. So thank you all so much. We'll catch you again next Saturday. And to my friend, you, Bob Mendes trained you well, because I used to do this with Bob Mendes. And so when Bob stopped, every time I do it, it's his wedding anniversary. Oh, by the way, happy anniversary, Bob and Sue. You got away from me now, huh? And so thank you for
problem.
agreeing to do this. It's always better when you have somebody that you're talking it through and explaining it, so that we can break it down the way that everybody can understand. So again, thank you all so very much. We appreciate you being a part of this. Continue to stay engaged, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.
Now you need to close it out.
Yes. You know what